Designer Dan Atchison was a Harley rider back in the 90s, but is now a road racer in the supersport class. So it's no surprise that his Ecosse V-twin is the closest thing to an American Ducati yet seen in the motorcycle marketplace.
Well, I would travel the world on kind of a business development job I had, and I grew up on dirt bikes, had road race bikes in college, and went the Harley route in Southern California in the early 90s, and just thought we could bring everything together as one fun street-based motorcycle. So of course this is just our first model. We have plenty more to come, but that's how it started. So I assembled a team of great engineers, and we all came up with this. I'd say styling came second. It's definitely function before form, but thankfully the form evolved through the functionality. We wanted our first bike to be a high-performance street bike. So when we said street, we wanted it to be very, very simple and a lot of fun to ride, well under the legal speed limit. So the American V-twin, especially these aftermarket guys, like the Patrick Racing motor that we finally decided on after a lengthy test program, just massive torque. It's a blast. Whether you're in second, third, or fourth, it doesn't really matter. Just turn the throttle and pull right out. When we test ride bikes, for various reasons, especially we're prototyping a couple more bikes, we easily hit speeds of 145 to 155, not really trying that hard. We had Yoshimura do the performance tuning of the exhaust. It's our aesthetic design. We actually manufacture the systems now. We took this bike out to a charity event probably 2 months ago and dropped 2 teeth off the rear, and normally in my race bikes I disconnect the speedometer so I'm not distracted, but every once in a while in turn 1 I glance down and we were consistently about 120 miles an hour, knee down, all the way through a big sweeping turn. So it definitely has the capability to do top speed type events. This one's 107 cubic inches, which is about 1,750 cc's. Essentially the motor is entirely cut from billet aluminum other than the original case. Nigel Patrick's a former Cosworth engineer. He balanced and blueprints all his motors, dynamically balances crankshafts. We did some early testing with most of the V-twin players, and he was clearly the winner. We go all the way up to 120 cubic inch motor, but this motorcycle is so light that there's really no need to go above that. But we have played with larger motors, and we'll see what kind of bike we dream up for that. I'd say the most effort that we put into the motorcycle were the chassis and our transmission, which Burt Baker helped us a great deal with. With our transmission, we're able to make the whole drivetrain package much, much shorter, which helped with the chassis development. So we're able to get quite a large swing arm as a percentage of total wheelbase. So there's a bunch of engineering principles we tried to pay attention to, and it came out fantastic, we think. Well, we still have a pretty large or long chain run compared to a road race bike anyway. It's a wet clutch, so a standard wet plate. We use a couple extra plates, both the friction and the steel plates. I probably hurt a lot of feelings along the way, but I guess ultimately I have to take the hit if someone doesn't like it, and I guess I get most of the credit if someone does. But again, it purely came out of functionality. Just if it didn't have a purpose, we didn't want it on the bike. And we were able to do a number of multi-duties per certain designs, such as we got rid of all the heat shields except for under the carburetor by tucking the pipes in close and keeping them low, but we also didn't want them near the foot pegs or have any kind of ground clearance issue. The tail strictly came out of needing to obviously support seats, tail light, mufflers, and we wanted a storage capacity. So this currently is on hinges, and it unlocks and provides you with a little bit of storage. And same, you have to have a headlight. The triple tree, we wanted a bunch of adjustability to match our fully adjustable rear end, and we stepped the triple tree down quite a bit. Such as our start button, it also shares the functionality as our oil pressure light. So just it got lucky maybe, but we also paid a lot of attention, played with a lot of different scenarios. We do offer a dual carb upgrade. It gets rid of some of the compactness because they are side by side, but the bike still looks fantastic. Some people actually prefer it. It gets more into the Carroll Shelby Cobra kind of hot rod look and feel. And there is a noticeable bump in performance, and Nigel Patrick also makes that upgrade. It's almost identical in that the inner carburetor is inset just a bit, and there's just simply a branch off that. So it's still a 2-into-1 back into the 2 cylinders, so they're not on separate runners. We briefly played with a separate runner system, and it makes a lot of sense for drag racing and on the track. However, for streetability, this just works fantastic, not only alone but in the dual carburetor situation. And we did this also for a number of reasons. We wanted a really long inlet track to bump our torque. We did not care what horsepower was with this bike. We told Yoshimura when they did the exhaust, it's strictly torque. And we also gained a lot of knee clearance when we shortened things up. With a traditional carburetor setup, it's very difficult to get your knee clearance there. Once we decided on the powertrain, we designed the transmission. Obviously, you need to wrap it with a very stiff mainframe, but the important part became the swing arm and the rear suspension, and that took a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of credit. Most of the credit goes to the Öhlins engineers and technicians who consulted on the project. But what we ended up with, where you see the bike right now, we call it road race mode. Again, high performance street bike, not a road racer, but it handles really, really well. I think we probably have the most expensive dipstick ever made. And even the passenger pegs are all adjustable. And all the seating has gel inside, so it's pretty darn comfortable. A rider can go a number of hours, is pretty much as long as a gas tank can help you or get you down the road. The passenger, though, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and they'll need to take a break. On this bike, we made all the mounting gear, and then the foot pegs came from Italy. On the future bikes, we're making it all now. BST is now our primary wheel supplier, so we match that pattern in not only the sprocket cover, but also the brake carriers. That's what customers will hear from them a month or two later, and they'll say, wow, I just went out in the garage and I discovered 5 more things that I didn't even notice.